Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Goodland, the land where everything is good, because what is better than hanging out with two best friends? I am one of those best friends, Norrin Shearer.
And I'm the other, Michael Bandhauer. How was your week,
Michael,
Norrin?
Michael, my week was pretty good. I was pretty busy this week. I feel like I'm going to say that every week from now on, because that's
I
what,
think that's part of life.
yeah, that's what working does. So I was busy with work all week, and I dove in to a lot of new projects this week. Um, I don't know why, but I've been having this like just kind of creative bug. I've just been feeling the need to make things and put them out there. So I started my streaming channel. So I got a Twitch channel set up as well as a YouTube channel for the Twitch. So I guess if you are into Twitch, check me out, Everweld _ on Twitch. And on YouTube if you want to see me be really bad at video games. So I started that. So I designed the logo for myself. I tried to set up my stream layout as best I could. And then I decided that I wanted to get into some YouTube videos on my personal channel as well. So I started putting together research for, I want to do like movie and TV and video game like reviews and video essays. So I started researching and scripting for the first video that I want to do for that. So that has also been taking some time, as well as editing this show and dungeon stories. So I've been putting myself out there in a few different kind of creative projects recently. So that's felt good. And then yesterday, Jared and I went to the comic shop and we picked up comics like we do every week. We went to lunch, Mongolian barbecue, and
Not
then we
bad.
went and watched Raya and the Last Dragon in theaters. And that was really good. It was really good. I saw Godzilla versus Kong last week, and that movie was not very good. It was fun, but it was not very good. Raya and the Last Dragon was both fun and good. So
Nice. I
that
was
was
wondering how
nice.
that would turn out.
Yeah. What about you? How's your week?
Not too busy, except for I have school starting Monday, tomorrow. I've got my next semester of school starting, so that's pretty stressful, but like exciting at the same time, especially because I'm going to be like working at the same time as going to school. So I'm trying to balance that. And then my wife is also doing a huge project um, with her business, her floral business. So we've got a big project coming up on next Saturday. So there's a lot of things happening. So it's been pretty busy, but also, it's all good things, kind of like you said, a lot of projects going on, but like all good things. So
Yeah, right on. Well, how's your gardening stuff going? How's that coming along? I know you've been sending me plant Snapchats.
yeah, oh man, I love plants. Um, if anyone hasn't seen my plants, add me on Snapchat or message me asking to see my plants because I have a lot. Every time I like travel, outside of Rexburg, I always pick up a few plants. So it's, about once a month, I'll grab a few new plants. So yeah, I've got quite a bit. My most recent purchase that you've seen, I bought a bunch of plants. Oh, come on. Why am I forgetting their name? um, I bought a whole bunch of clematis. There we go. I bought a whole bunch of different kinds. I can't remember the names, but I bought a whole bunch of clematis because I want some viney flowers growing up the outside of my house. So more plants to come. I'll keep you guys updated as the weeks go by.
Plant watch.
Yeah, plant watch. I'll send out regular updates. But Norrin, how about you? Do you have any plans?
I don't, but my father does. He has gotten into gardening very intensely since the weather has started to kind of turn nicer. So he's redoing our entire backyard. Um, he's building raised beds that he's putting in the ground, and he has basically has the backyard kind of marked off. So he has this path that's going to go through it, this stone path, and then the other places are going to be like meadows basically. So he's going to let the grass grow really long, and he's put a bunch of flowers and bushes in there. So it's going to
That's
grow into this
cool.
like tall kind of wild meadow look. And then he's got the path that'll lead you through it. He's going to build his own greenhouse in the backyard, and he's got a couple different beds going back there. So I've been helping with that. So it's not my own gardening, but I have been assisting in my dad's big project. We just built another raised bed earlier today, this morning. So
Wow, man, that is awesome. I would not have expected that from your dad, but that
he,
is so cool.
yeah, in classic my father fashion, when he finds a new hobby, he gets into it very intensely, like right away.
True. That
Um,
that does sound familiar. I
so
know that.
he has had a lot of hobbies over the years that have kind of come and gone, but each one of them he has embraced with fervor. And I still remember when we were getting into disc golfing, all of a sudden, like he was watching YouTube videos of it, and then like 2 days later, he had a bag that was like 2 feet long, full of different discs of different weights, and that's just how he is.
That's good old Billy Goat.
Good old Billy Goat. All right. Well, Michael, why don't you tell us what we're doing this week? Tell us what our
Yeah.
plan is for this episode.
Yeah. So this week, Norrin and I gathered a list of words. Each of us has a random list of words, maybe not so random, but we're each going to read them to each other and see what the other's reaction is. We're going to kind of give a little bit of personal dictionary. So I would read a word, an example would be pizza. And then Norrin would be able to tell us what would Norrin's dictionary on pizza be. It could be a good memory of pizza. It could just be his perception or his thoughts on the words. But we will be able to give you our personal dictionary. We decided that we should create a dictionary for Goodland with
Yeah, this is
some
the
words.
official Goodland dictionary. If when you come and stay in Goodland, you have to use words out of this book. If you, I
Mhm.
mean, you can use obviously, Goodland is a place for everybody, so any language is accepted. But the primary, like these are going to be like the most important aspects of Goodland culture. Things like pizza and stuff like
this
that.
this is the first edition of the dictionary. In each culture, in each language, there are translations of words, but they all mean something slightly different. This is Goodlands.
This is
So
specific to the valley. So,
yes.
well, Michael, do you want to start? Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. All right, Norrin. Here is one word that I think we should add to the dictionary. um this word is nerf. Nerf. What would this say? What is Norrin's experience with nerf?
Yeah. So I have probably extensive history with Nerf, and um, what really comes to mind, what really stands out, is specifically the Nerf weapons like swords and battle axes and those kinds of things. Um, I just remember being children and taking these Nerf blades and staging massive battles in the backyard of my house, like jumping off the trampoline with two-handed broadswords coming down on top of one another. Um, I remember one time specifically, I was I was in elementary school at the time, and I was hanging out with our buddy Keaton at his house, and we were playing with Nerf swords in his front yard. And I turned to run away from him, and I ran into the light post that was in his front yard, and I hit it with my face, and it cut me clear from like my eye down to my lip, and it
Oh
was
my
just like
gosh.
bleeding down the side of my face, and it ended up scarring. Like I had a scar there for a little while. My mom got me the special cream that I could like put on it that was supposed to help the scar go away. But for like probably 4 or 5 months, I had a scar like Anakin Skywalker going down the side of my face. So I kind of wish it had stayed. Like,
Yeah, that would kind of give you a little bit of an edge.
yeah,
Just
yeah. Looking back on it, I kind of wish that it stuck around. But
shouldn't have used the cream.
yeah, instead, all the only scar I have is a little divot from when I had the chicken pox. So
Dang. Yeah, I love Nerf weapons. I mean, I remember playing with you, jumping on the trampoline. That was so much fun just going out there and playing with, Nerf swords or axes. I think my favorite was the axe. I
yeah,
remember fighting several times with my brother with these Nerf axes, just fighting, having fun, having a good time in a safe way.
yeah, yeah, mostly.
Unless you run into a pole, but
That's true.
is that Nerf's fault?
I guess not. No, that was user error on my part. I can't blame them.
User error. That's a good point to make. Yeah, I don't know. I don't believe they're still making those Nerf melee weapons. Those are really fun. I know they're still making the different guns and blasters, but
Yeah, I have to say I'm not up to speed on the current Nerf market. I haven't been following that very closely much longer, so I don't know if they're still doing the melee ones or not. I would hope that they were, but part of me has a feeling that they're not. Part of me has a feeling that those were kind of short lived because I bet people were getting hit pretty hard.
I bet there were some injuries there.
Yeah, I bet they got some complaints, and the swords did not last exceptionally long. Um, but I mean, like I said, I don't know. For all we know, there could be even bigger swords out there. Maybe there are spears now and stuff
Oh
like
boy.
that.
Yeah.
Big giant halberds. One can only hope.
So there we go. Nerf weapons of ages past.
All right, Michael, I have a word for you: crown.
Crown. Ooh, okay. Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind when you say crown is that one, people, I feel like the number of like actual kings and queens in the world has diminished, but not when it comes to high school, because there are many times where we would do skits or plays or even an English class where we'd have props. And I will always remember our good friend Jacob just wearing the crown. And I believe it was another one of our good friends, Tanner, who piled on like 10 different crowns or hats for our English class because we would always recreate whether it was Shakespeare or some other literary work of art, but those crowns were always like the go-to prop. So I'd
Yes.
say crowns are not used so much as their traditional sense, but they are like A plus props.
Do you remember, was it senior year, Miss Smith's class, where we had to like recreate a scene from Shakespeare, and we made like sock puppets,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
and we had, I think it was it Hamlet, and we were doing like the fight scene where he killed his dad.
Definitely. I do remember recreating that scene. And what art form to be doing this with sock puppets?
Basically just like smacking each other's hands back and forth.
If Shakespeare could have seen what would come from these sock puppets. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he we I think there's two options. He either is a rolling in his grave knowing that his art is being desecrated by our hands covered in gym socks, or he absolutely loves it, and it was always his vision.
I would like to imagine that was his vision.
Sock puppet theater.
Maybe he seemed like the kind of guy that would like to jest at at people being very professional and such. He liked to poke fun. So I think he'd love to see what his works have become. I think what is it, Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah, yeah, Romeo
Oh
and
yeah.
Juliet.
I'm sure he would have loved that.
It'd be his favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
He's got like the posters up on the wall. Or
I know,
I
at
bet
least
he'd
that's
really
what.
like Lion King, because Lion King's Hamlet, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he'd love Lion King. He'd love that. That would be like all that he would watch, like 10 Things I Hate About You. Um, like that's all those things that are his works. I think is She's the Man one as well. Maybe it's not She's the Man, but She's the Man, I'm going to say, is based off of Shakespeare work as well,
Oh,
because
cool.
I think it is. But like all just those weird ones that they don't seem like they are, but they're all basically Shakespeare stuff.
Hmm.
That would be like exclusively what he would watch.
True. I feel like Shakespeare's the kind of guy who, he creates it, and it's a great drama, a great piece of work. And then he probably, anyone else who tries to replicate it, he's probably like, boring. Like, I've seen this. I know what this is. Show me the gnomes.
Yeah,
Show
bring me the gnomes.
show me the soccer players, show me the gym socks. Show me the plastic crowns that you'll wear in high school.
It's Shakespeare, and he's just surrounded by a field of those little gnomes and the speedos from Romeo and Juliet.
I think that's perfect. That's what comes to my mind with the crown, is the irony,
I
what
love
it
it.
is, and all the good times. Also, Burger King. Do they still give out those crowns?
I don't know. I don't know. Were those for like birthdays? Is that what it
I
was? You go and you get a birthday
think
crown?
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next week we'll report. We'll see if any of us was able to grab
Yeah.
a crown.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Well, I do have another word for you, Norrin. That word is haircut.
Haircut. By the looks of it, obviously, Michael, neither you or me are very familiar with those.
No, not in the last at least a year.
Yeah, it's been a while for both of us. Um, I have not cut my hair since freshman year of high school. Um,
Wow.
yeah, growing up, I always got my hair buzzed by my dad. He was in the National Guard for a little while, um, so that was what he knew how to do, was just buzz cuts. Um, so I
Yeah,
would
I
always get
remember the
my hair
buzz.
buzzed up until like freshman year. And when I was starting high school, my dad was like, "Okay, you're in high school now. You can do whatever you want with your hair." So I decided that I would grow it out after my entire life having it short. I decided to rebel and grow out my hair. Um,
Grow
so
up the afro.
yeah, so freshman year, because it's so curly, it grew into an afro, and I think there are still pictures of it on my Instagram if you scroll back far enough, of the actual afro. And I used to put a pick in it, and I'm not super proud of that phase. that was that was pretty bad. That was pretty cringy. I don't know who let me do that. Um, and then
I let
sophomore
you
year
do
of
it,
high school,
obviously.
yeah, obviously, yeah, no one stopped me, unfortunately. But
Hmm.
then sophomore year, I started wearing it down, and that's when I kind of went into like I would wear it and kind of have part of it in front of my eye, in front of my face, and I would have this long curly hair, and um, I'd put like this like gel in it, so it would kind of create this like shell. So it was very like that like scene phase, but obviously I couldn't do it when I was in middle school like everyone else did. Um, so I had to hit it.
So you just did it a few years later.
Yeah. Plus,
I remember that
it never
phase.
really worked because my hair is so curly. So it was just like ringlet curls, like hanging in front of my eyes. Um, and then honestly, I think I wore it down until senior year. I think senior year is when I started pulling it back into a ponytail pretty often. And now this is basically how I always wear it: is I just pull it back in a ponytail. So, but
Nice.
yeah, my definition of haircut is not necessary. You don't need them.
Yeah, not required.
Don't cut your hair. It's way cooler not to.
It is. It really is. I mean, obviously, I had, medium length hair, I'd say, growing up. As a kid, Norrin had like a haircut pretty short to his head. I always had a bowl cut, like in elementary school. Like, my mom would cut my own hair, and you could tell. I didn't notice anything wrong with it at the time until, like, now I'll look at old pictures and be like, what the heck?
who who allowed this?
Yeah.
Did she
Who
do
let
it like with the bowl and everything? Like, did she put a bowl on top of your
No,
head? No.
it wasn't the bowl, but I mean, it was pretty like straight
Yeah.
across, pretty straight bangs, and as a kid, I didn't notice whatsoever. That was something I think I grew up like, you know, ignorant bliss as a child. I just didn't think about things like fashion or haircuts until later, of course. And I'm like, oh my gosh, who let me outside of the house?
Yeah, I
you
kind of
know,
miss when it was that easy.
yeah.
You just like, yeah, sure, put put me in whatever you want, do my hair, whatever you want to make me look like. I'm gonna go roll around in that pile of mud anyway, so it's not gonna matter in
Yeah,
2 minutes.
those days of innocence, you know. And then yeah, haircuts became a thing. But I always had like medium length hair, and I did have long hair for a little bit. I think that was, I can't remember, somewhere along middle
Like
school
middle
maybe.
school, yeah, like sixth, seventh grade.
Yeah,
You had like the Bieber cut.
I did. Yeah, that was like, can't remember where that was in relation to Bieber, but yeah, very similar haircut. And then I cut it short, and then I haven't cut my hair since I got married over a year ago.
Yeah,
So
nice.
it's just been growing long. So I agree with Norrin.
Does Kelsey like it?
Haircuts,
Does she prefer it long?
yeah, she does. It was just like part of COVID, and I worked landscaping, so it was just like I was always so busy, you know, I didn't
Yeah.
have time to get a haircut, you know. And I just decided to keep growing it because I've always kind of wanted to have long hair, and here it is. So I enjoy it. Yeah, haircuts are optional, you know.
Yeah. Okay, Michael. Well, I got another word for you. How about hero?
Hero.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is a cool one. Nora and I growing up definitely grew up on the nerd spectrum.
Yeah, if that
Um,
wasn't obvious.
I was going to say, Norrin's background gives us a prime example. At one point, my wall was covered in similar posters, and you know those are like the heroes I grew up with. You know, I think we mentioned, Norrin and I talked before in an earlier podcast when we were talking about like, oh, who are our heroes? You know, I said so many people that we grow up with, you know, like they're heroes in World of Warcraft and, you know, Marvel Universe and Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Like all of those definitely come to mind when I think of hero. Just these great examples I had growing up, you know, just I love them. You know, I loved all of their different courage, couragely aspects, heroic aspects. Um, and now, like we even mentioned before, Norrin and I play D&D together to this day, and that's a wonderful realm for us to be able to create our own heroes and such. So I definitely think that we have had many heroes of like every shape, size, you know, all across the board. We've had many heroes, and I'm grateful for it. You know, I'm grateful for all of those, like one, creative outlets, but then two, also being able to just have these great people to look up to like at any point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think that we've kind of chosen media that the media that means a lot to you and I is media that is centered around heroes of various different caliber. Um, but like my favorite kinds of characters are the ones like Luke Skywalker and Captain America, who, you know, they'll take anything on and they'll never give up, and they're always, you know, going to try and do what's right and what's good, regardless of what that, you know, what that looks like. You know, they're all good to the core, and sometimes, you know, that gets them into trouble. That's like kind of a flaw. You know, sometimes they're too trusting, so it's not like they're perfect characters. Um, but that's my favorite thing, and that's what, like, playing Dungeons and Dragons, those are the characters that I like to make are good, like, heroic pillar characters. And obviously, I'll stray out of that every once in a while. I had my warlock, who was just basically just a jerk. He was like the most self-absorbed character I've probably ever played. But he was a ton of fun to play, but it's just, that was kind of outside the realm. Usually I prefer heroes. That's like Leonardo is my favorite Ninja Turtle. Luke Skywalker is one of my favorite characters, and like Ahsoka Tano is probably my favorite Star Wars character of all time, and she's very much like that, where she's going to do what's right and what's good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that just makes me happy to know that, like, there is good out there, you know.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I love about, you know, this form of media that we like, is there are just so many different types of heroes. Like I love Bilbo, because he's someone who loved his nice, comfortable life, and he went out and did something new, and did a lot of good, and then you have people who are different calibers of heroes, like Captain America, like he's an icon, the whole nation, the whole Marvel universe like looks up to this person, and Ahsoka Tano, like she has her own conflicting past, a lot of ups and downs and stuff, a lot of troubles, and she kind of finds her own way to be a hero. I just love how there's not a fixed way to be a hero. You don't need to be Superman to be a hero. You can be whatever type of hero you want. So
Yeah, and that's why those kind of stories I think mean so much to me, is because in each of them, in each one of those heroes, I may not be exactly like Bilbo, I may not be exactly like Steve Rogers, but I can find pieces of them that I can relate to. And through seeing how many different paths there are to take to being a hero, I can, it reminds me that I can make my own path, be my own hero, and I just take bits and pieces from each of them. And
yeah,
that's
that's
cool. It
very,
just makes me
very
happy.
true. I wish I could have kind of like a overview of my life and see, okay, what were my favorite heroes at different points in my
Yeah,
life,
that would be
just to see
awesome.
kind of like what it was that I was drawing from that character. So, man, yeah, it's just so cool because no matter where you're at, there's a hero you can look up to, you know. Um, in today's world, it might be hard finding a hero, but there are a lot of great people out there, and even if you feel like you can't find anyone, the world of nerd stuff, geek stuff is full of them. You can find them
Yeah,
anywhere. So
exactly. Yeah, if you can't find a light in the real world, there's always a light, on the screen or in books. Um, that's pretty cool, and probably the nerdiest thing that we've ever said, at least on this show so far. Um, but yeah, I think that's a sentiment that you and I both share and both really hold on to.
yeah, definitely. Dang. All right, Norrin. Well, I'll take it a different direction. What comes to mind when I say the word punk? Punk.
Yeah. Um, I mean, a lot of different stuff. My dad, for one, definitely comes to mind. Um, Growing up in high school, my dad was like a big skate punk. He skated all the time and listened to like thrash metal and skate punk and all that kind of stuff. Um, my dad was a big rule breaker, and I feel like there's a ton of stories that I have yet to hear. Um, and the ones that I have heard are, some of them are pretty crazy. I love the story about my father throwing a pair of scissors at Vice President Al Gore. Um,
Oh, wow.
have I told you this story, Michael?
No, please. Yeah,
Strap in, my
there's
friend.
an example in this dictionary.
Yeah. So we're going back to Boise High School, in, I guess it would be the 80s when my dad was born, 71. So yeah, it would be like probably like 84, 85. Um, so 1980s, Boise High School. At this time, Al Gore has not yet been elected vice president. He is running. Um, in the meanwhile, his wife, Tipper Gore, has created the PMRC, the Parental Music Rating Council, the PMRC, Parental Music Rating Council. They're the people who invented the parental advisory thing to slap
Huh.
onto. Basically, she was trying to censor music and stuff like that. And so being like a skater punk that was totally not cool with my dad and his friends and that circle that he paid attention to in the media. Um, and so while running for vice president, Al Gore was touring around making speeches, and kind of trying to get people on his side, like you do when you run for vice president, as one does. And one of these speeches was in the gym at Boise High School. And so uh, the gym, at least how it used to be, I don't know if Boise ever got renovated or not, but at least in the 80s, the gym was kind of two-tiered. So you had like the bleachers, and then you had like the nosebleed section up top. Um, my dad and his friends were up top in the nosebleeds, and Al Gore and Tipper Gore come walking out to start making their speech, and my dad and his friends start booing and yelling and swearing, and they start just throwing whatever they have. So they're crumpling up paper and throwing them, and like these folders and pencils, and just grabbing whatever they could, like out of their school supplies, like their binders. My dad pulled a pair of scissors out and flung it and hit Al Gore like right in the shoulder with his pair of scissors. And it was like the handles, and it just kind of like bounced off. It's not like he stabbed Al Gore, but they were just throwing stuff like their shoes and their hats. And my dad said the like police had to come in and like grab him and dragged him out of the gymnasium. And so they took my dad and my and his friends and pulled him out. And so that's that. When you say punk, that is probably one of the first thing that comes to mind is my father, because he was um, quite the quite the rebel in school. And then of course, just obviously that influenced kind of my own like music taste and stuff. And so you and I were pretty into um, punk rock growing up as well. Um, More of the like pop punk side of things with like Green Day and Blink 182 and All American Rejects. But that music influence has been something that is still kind of stuck with me to this day. So I still really like that kind of pop punk and like Midwest emo kind of vibe. That's still what I listen to today. But that is definitely what, especially like middle school, high school era, that was like almost exclusively what we had playing in the car whenever we drove anywhere. So
Yeah, man, if I could go back to a memory from high school, definitely would be those late night drives with you and I driving through, just blasting punk music as we're just singing along to it. Those are definitely some of my favorite memories. It's just so satisfying being able to just kind of like jam together
yeah,
with music blaring. So like music has always been something that Nora and I have definitely shared. We loved discovering like new bands, like new music. I remember, when we were in high school, it was more common that you would buy CDs, when an artist came out with an album is, typically you would buy the album, there Spotify did exist and such, but I remember buying like all of Green Day's new albums. And I remember one day for like one of my birthday days, Norrin brought me like a bunch of albums that he had burned onto discs. It was just like a whole collection of Green Day albums. And that was like a great birthday present. That was many hours spent listening to music.
yeah, we listened and we got together and we jammed playing guitar a couple of times. We did that quite a bit. Um, yeah, so music has always kind of influenced us a lot. I mean, I'm sure this is not by any means exclusive to me, but I used to pirate music quite a bit um, back in middle school and high school. Um, I had a little iPod Touch, and basically I would do the video to MP3 conversion websites. So
I
uh,
I know those.
I would just paste YouTube videos in there and pop out MP3s, and then load them into iTunes so I could load them onto my iPod Touch. that
Yeah, it
was
was
that was
it
good
was quite
stuff.
a system back then. You had to get them in the right format and such. And I remember having an iPod, and back then, like now, my phone has like 128 gigabytes of storage. Back then, like my iPod had 32, I think. And
Yeah,
when you listen to as much music as Norrin and I, you had to like hand choose. Okay, who do I want to listen to? You'd have to filter it out and such. So definitely, I think punk rock, pop punk was definitely our most listened to genre.
yeah, and that's, I mean, if the this curly hair scene cut wasn't uh like emblematic of that, then, then I don't know what was.
What was the name of our band or bands? We had at
Uniquely
least one.
Untitled.
Uniquely Untitled. There we go.
Uniquely Untitled. Yeah, and we played at the eighth grade dance. We played All the Small Things
We
by
did.
Blink 182, and we were big deals. We played at the dance, and I think there might be a YouTube video out there somewhere of
Yeah, it might be.
of
Someone might need
Uniquely
to dig that
Untitled.
up.
Yeah, might be a YouTube video of Uniquely Untitled out there. Just search them up on YouTube. May or may not
Yeah.
still exist out there. Um, and then I remember we knew one and a half songs. We knew all the small things really well. We started learning the middle by Jimmy Eat World. Like we started Uniquely Entitled in eighth grade. We played the dance. We got together a couple times over the summer. We got to high school freshman year, and then we broke up. And we
We
never
didn't do
mastered
much.
we never mastered Jimmy Eat World. Um, we we probably practiced it like maybe once or twice at sessions altogether.
Mhm.
But that was that was a short-lived time when we were in that band. But we were on top of the world for that short time.
Yeah, I mean, it's as far as I know, we're the only band to have played in the Bilberg gym. So
Boom. And honestly, if that is incorrect, please don't correct us because it makes us feel a lot
yeah,
better
please
believing that
don't
we're the
take
only
that
band to
from
have ever
us.
played in the Bilberg Gym.
We need to like sign it like they do at the CBGBs, just sign the walls.
uh, like the practice room and the choir room
Yeah,
we all
definitely.
wrote on the bricks. They're tearing that place down.
Are they?
They're
Oh
getting a new
boy.
fine arts building, so they're tearing that down. And I was telling my mom, I was like, "Is there any way you can get the brick?
Yeah, please.
We need our brick." But
Dang.
all right, Michael. How about fire?
Fire? Oh man. Well, I grew up camping a lot. I was like involved in scouts and stuff through church. So I'd go camping probably like once a month, if all things are going good. And like fire is one of the best parts about camping. Unless you have a dedicated fire pit or fireplace, you can't just light fires in your front yard. That you just can't. Some people disagree with that. So so the amount of fires that you get to light is limited in the suburbs, at least where Norrin and
That's
I grew
fair.
up.
Yes.
And I think that's a good thing. I think I'm okay with that. But going camping was always a great time because we could just make wonderful fires, and you can do a lot of good things. You can grill some wonderful food up on it. Roasting marshmallows is just such a perfect experience. I love marshmallows, roasting marshmallows. Um, but I think fire that's always what comes to my mind is just like camping, being able to like go out and camp and create your own fire. It's just a whole lot of fun. I remember especially camping with like a bunch of other young kids. Um, you'd have to be careful because some people weren't always the brightest. I always remember to this day, we were camping in this one place and there were a lot of dry tumbleweeds around us. So we would have the fire, and then every once in a while, some kids would run out and grab some tumbleweeds, and then they would toss one onto the fire. And for about 10 seconds, you just had this eruption of flame, just shooting 10 feet high in the sky. Everyone would have to step back. All the adults would be like, please stop it. Someone is going to get hurt. Something bad is going to happen. Uh, and then before we knew it, a kid comes around with a tumbleweed the size of him. This tumbleweed was longer than my arm span. I couldn't wrap my arms around it. It was just about the size of my desk. And a kid, he had to have planned this. He had to have known that someone would have stopped him. So he ran lightning fast and just chucked this into the fire pit. And it just exploded everywhere. Flames shooting like 20 feet high in the sky. It only lasted like 20 seconds, but that's the closest I've come to dying from fire from this kid in a tumbleweed. So my experience with fire is definitely a respect for fire. A lot of good experiences though.
A respect for the power of it. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
respect for the power of it.
I like that. I like that. Um, growing up, my dad, my parents, I may have mentioned this before. My parents love cooking. Um,
Yeah,
my
definitely.
my
They
parents are
cook some
both
good food.
my parents are both fantastic cooks. My dad loves to barbecue and smoke meat, and I remember this one time we had the barbecuer. It was kind of like up against the house, and my dad was making steaks or hamburgers or something. Um, and he usually what he would do is he'd like get it started and then he'd close the lid and kind of let it do its thing, you know. But I think I'm not sure exactly what happened. Either like there was like a spark of some kind, or it just got too hot in the belly of it. But
Too
all of a sudden,
greasy.
yeah, something like that. And then there was just this like smoke started to like pour out, and we pulled the grill away from the wall, and the side of the house in the backyard was like kind of sparking and started like flaming a bit. So my dad had to rush, grab the fire extinguisher and put it out. And now there's this like scorch mark on the side of our house.
I remember you telling me about that experience. Is it still there, that scorch mark?
I think so. Yeah. It's I think my dad has tried to kind of scrub it. And so it's smaller now between time and rain and scrubbage. But I think, you know, the scar remains of
The reminder to respect the flame.
yeah. And now the grill is on the other end of the patio, not up against anything. So
Oh, that's probably smart.
we have learned.
I love I live kind of out, not in a suburb now, not in an apartment complex or anything. So it definitely has opened up opportunities for fire. So it's starting to warm up too. So that's going to be coming along.
Yeah.
Hopefully no scorch marks, no burning that I'll have to.
Yeah, especially because you got all that grass out there. You gotta be a different kind of careful.
Yeah, different kind of careful. So yeah, be careful with fire. It can create a lot of good food, a lot of good times, but be careful. I don't think you and I ever had a fire together, did we?
No, I think there were a couple times that we attempted to go camping together and they just never ended up working out.
Yeah.
I still remember the one time that we got the closest. We actually drove up to the campsite and then they were all full. And so we had to drive back down and just ended up sleeping in your living room instead.
That's right.
That was the closest we ever got. We tried it a lot, but it just never panned out.
We'll come up to Yellowstone. We'll go camping sometime.
Yeah, I've never been to Yellowstone. So
yeah, same. Dang. All right, Norrin, well, I have a word for you. That word is cul-de-sac.
That's a good one.
I'll add a little bit of French, I believe.
Yeah, I believe at least arrived.
Maybe long from, but distant relative.
Yeah, so I mean, neither of us lived in a cul-de-sac, but there were a few in our neighborhood. I don't know if we mentioned this before. Michael and I grew up like around the corner from one another. So we were like, I would leave my house and cross the canal and then go in through Michael's back gate and walk in through his backyard into his house through the back door. Like we were super close. It would take like 2 minutes to walk from my house to his. So that's why when I say our neighborhood, that is what I'm referring to, because we lived around the corner from one another. But yeah, so there were a few cul-de-sacs in our neighborhood. And we spent, a decent amount of time in them. There was a time where we attempted to be skateboarders. And that was very short-lived, maybe like 2 weeks. Maybe that was me and Eric, but
might have been Eric. That sounds like Eric.
I remember basketball in the cul-de-sac in front of the Kendrick's house. I remember the cul-de-sac that was there had that little park at it. There was like that little playground. Like if you went through that stone path that was kind of by my house, stone path led back to a cul-de-sac. There's a little park there. And when Pokemon Go first came out, there was a Pokestop right there. And so we'd go sit at that park in that cul-de-sac. And,
sure, that was a lot of fun.
Drop a lure module on that Pokestop and just hang out there. But I think more often than cul-de-sacs, I think we hung out at Chief Joseph Elementary School. That was our main. And I guess you could sort of count their parking lot as a cul-de-sac because it has that rounded area
Ooh,
with that like berm in
what
the
are
middle of it.
what are the parameters for a
Yeah,
cul-de-sac?
I I think technically they have to be residential, so that probably wouldn't count,
Yeah,
but it was close enough, and I feel like we spent more time at Chief Joseph than we did at an
oh,
actual
definitely.
cul-de-sac.
That was
Um,
like our hangout, and we had different hangouts at the school too.
yeah, yeah. There was the field and the quiet side, and then there was that berm in the center
Yeah,
of
the
the
berm
parking
was a
lot.
classic. I remember that one.
There was that little area by like the lunchroom where technically I think that's like where the dumpsters were, but it was like that little alley
Yeah,
back
that's
there.
right.
Remember when we were digging around in the recycling bin? Okay, let me set the scene for you, Michael. So you and I are at Chief Joseph Elementary in that alley, climbing into the recycling bin because we're finding these long tubes of cardboard that we can use as swords. Do you remember this? And then the cop
Definitely.
shows up.
Yeah, Norrin
Someone
and I are just like fighting with these tubes. Two punks. The worst we're doing is robbing the recycling bin of these cardboard
or
tubes and
tubes.
fighting.
We had to have been, what would that have been? Freshman year, eighth grade,
I'm not
probably
sure
eighth
what
grade,
time period. Probably around then.
probably eighth grade, freshman year. Someone must have called the cops on us because they saw us digging through the recycling bins, I guess. So Michael and I are sword fighting with these like wrapping paper tubes, like just these cardboard tubes. We're just sword fighting with them, and all of a sudden this cop shows up, and he's like, drop it, put him down, and we're like, what's going on?
Yeah, like what?
And he was like, you guys need to clean this up, and he like watched as we were like putting the cardboard back in, and we were like, we were gonna put it away. Like, we're not monsters, we're just nerds.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I like how that's like, the worst thing that we did was just play around with like recycling cardboard tubes.
Yeah, we got yelled at for climbing on the roof of the school a couple of times, which
We
like
did.
that's probably
Yeah,
that's
I was gonna say, if we should have gotten the cops called on us for anything, definitely climbing the
it was
roof.
being up on the roof of that elementary school.
Yeah.
But the cardboard tubes, come on.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. I always remember one of our friends who his house was right. You could see the back of his house from Chief Joseph, especially from the roof. Were you there when we
Was that
climbed
with
the roof and
and his
his
mom
mom
started
saw us?
yelling at us? Get down from there.
Really?
That
Yeah.
was awesome.
We had
I
a lot of fun there.
For a while they were like redoing the roof or something. So they had like these trucks that were parked on the blacktop just under
Oh,
it that
that's
had like all
right.
this cardboard
Yeah.
and stuff piled in it. So we'd climb up on the roof and then jump off into the back of the truck that had like all the cardboard stuff in it.
Yeah, it had like all of their trash from remodeling. That's right. That was really
Yes.
fun.
So we'd jump off into the back of the truck to cushion our fall.
Yeah, because that was the thing is we could get up easily enough using their rain gutters, like the spouts that touch to the ground. So we'd climb up on those, but those are a bit harder to get down on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
having
the way
that
that the
truck,
gutter kind of overhung so that the gutter was past the spout, so you could climb up really easy and then get your hands on the gutter and pull up, but it was hard to get your hands back down to the spout that
yeah,
slid
it was a
down, so
little
you
bit
couldn't get down
harder.
as easy. So we had to get creative. We jumped into a lot of dumpsters.
Yeah, Norman and I had a lot of fun growing up.
Yeah, and like you said, that cardboard tubes is probably the most trouble that we ever got in.
Yeah,
um,
no,
we
we,
didn't
we were pretty good, respectful kids.
Pretty bad punks, but
Yeah, we
pretty,
didn't throw any scissors.
but pretty good respectful kids. Because well, I mean, I think that was part of it, us part of us being as nerdy as we are, is we didn't need a lot to kind of stimulate our imaginations and
Yeah.
have something fun for us to do. Like we could come up with stuff to keep us entertained pretty easy, especially once we started playing Magic, which is my next word for you.
Ooh, magic.
That was a good segue, huh?
Yeah, that's perfect. Man, yeah, well, magic definitely um like Norrin and I love pretty much anything that is like in the nerd or geek realm. We love all of that. We love sci-fi, we love classical things. We love kind of your Tolkien kind of style of fantasy, but magic is like, at least personally, has always been my favorite. I love old timey fantasy magic. So that's one reason why like Dungeons and Dragons is my favorite, is because it's just such a part of it, just being able to have magic. um I think really, as far as like anything in the fantasy creative realm, if I could have anything, it would be magic. Because that was always like a good ticket item for me, is if Lord of the Rings has a little bit of magic, I love it. Harry Potter had some magic, I loved it. One of like my favorite, Nora and I's favorite book series was Aragon, and that was all about this kid learning magic, and having a dragon. Dragons are definitely
Yeah,
top tier. They're definitely top tier magic. And then I think it was the immortal Nicholas Flamel. Did you read that, Norrin? Yeah.
I did.
Uh,
Yeah. I listened to it audiobook form that summer that I worked for the Parks and Recreation department.
oh, that's right.
I listened to the whole thing on audiobook while I was painting.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite series, just because of the way that they do magic
It's
creatively. So I think
really
that's why
cool.
I did like Aragon and Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, is because they came up with cool, unique ways of doing magic. And of course, Magic the Gathering. That's a whole nother branch of magic, but that's just full of like magic and being able to create your own worlds and your own armies, your own deck. So Norton and I definitely played a good amount of magic. And I think this probably ties back a lot to your dad as well.
Mhm.
I think we can thank your dad a lot for like the childhood we grew up with, because your dad would just like share things with you. And then since I was like one of your best friends, you'd just be like, well, Michael, let's try this out. And then we'd try it out and then we'd end up loving it. So
Yeah.
Magic the Gathering was definitely one of those as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. I think definitely a lot of the, um, I think my dad had a lot of influence on us because he just, he's a pretty cool guy.
He
Um,
is.
and I mean, we were hanging out basically constantly. So, yeah, I mean, you were over here all the time. He basically like half your dad, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say so.
um, but yeah, like my obviously my dad is a big nerd. I'm named after the Silver Surfer from Marvel Comics, so obviously, um, nerd is kind of built in to who I am. And my dad, growing up, collected comic books and um, played video games and like Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. And my dad would, obviously I would see my dad enjoying all this, and so I'd be like, Dad, can I try it? And so I remember like when we were getting into D&D, my dad would like we'd come over and be like, can we play D&D? And he would like, I think he probably ran like one or two games for us, and then he was like, here is a printed out PDF copy of the player's handbook, just learn how to do it.
Go nuts.
Yeah, just learn how to do it yourself. And then with Magic, my dad would take us to Phoenix Fire games to play in tournaments on the weekends and open up new packs of cards. So that was always fun. Me, you, and my dad hanging out at the game store playing Magic over the weekend and
Mhm.
and building decks, and that was, yeah, that was always a big part of us growing up. That was so much fun.
Yeah, I think my childhood without like magic in it, not just the card game, but like the concept of magic, it would not be the same, like at all whatsoever. Like that was just such like a foundational part of my childhood growing up, is just like, the magic and all these different worlds centered around magic. If you took that away, that would be crazy.
Yeah, I
Mm.
think honestly, it's crazy to think that something so like abstract and kind of weird and nerdy is such like a pillar of us, but it so is. Like if I even as like a kid in like elementary school, I was like reading the Spiderwick Chronicles and running around with the field guide trying to find the little spiderweb monsters, and I had like the dragonology and wizardology books, and so I
Oh, I
was like,
love those.
yeah, finding rocks and being like, this is clearly a dragon egg. Obviously, this
Obviously.
stone is a dragon egg. Um, and then trying to do like the wizardology, learning all about it and all that. Like that's such just a hallmark. I can't imagine. I think Michael, like I mentioned before, I think if we didn't have it, I think we would have gotten into a lot more trouble because
Probably.
we had all this fantastical stuff that was beyond our world that we used to, as like an escape. So we didn't need other methods. We didn't need to get into trouble or anything like that because we could get away in these other ways by playing D&D and video games and all that. So I think that's honestly, I think that's part of the reason that we weren't more rambunctious.
Yeah. I think it's incredible to think about how, like, if you go back 50 years ago, there were adults who thought that magic was like satanic, and that it was not good for kids to, I know that I still, I have members of like my extended family who they grew up like not letting their kids read Harry Potter because they thought it wasn't good. That's incredible to think of, how magic was viewed in the past. Like D&D, that was something that, a lot of
Yeah, the big satanic panic.
yeah, groups were saying that, hey, this is not good for your kids. They're gonna get trapped in this world. It's a gateway to worshiping Satan, or whatever it is, gateway to drugs or anything. And here we are saying, you know what, it probably kept us out of
Yeah,
a lot of
without it, we
trouble.
would have turned out a lot worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Matt.
Michael. I think we got time for one more word.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's pick a good one. Let's go with pets. Pets, pets.
Yeah. I've had the same dog since the first grade.
Yeah, I cannot believe Sandy. Oh my gosh.
She is ancient. She's like 17 at this point. Um, got her in the first grade. Um, she is, we got her from the pound. She was a rescue. So we don't really know what she is. She's a mutt. She's a mix. Um, she has a little bit of like wire hair terrier in her, but she's uh, white fur, black spots with a really cute black face, and she's about mid-sized, maybe up to my knee. Um, and she has just been awesome. She's like the chillest dog. She like doesn't bark or like cause trouble. She doesn't dig. She's really well behaved. Like she won't come in the kitchen while we're eating. She just sits and waits. She's just awesome. She is super chill and relaxed, and she loves. Well, she used to love belly rubs. She has a hard time rolling over to allow you to pet her belly now that she's so
Oh yeah.
old. So she doesn't really like them as much as she used to. But she used to, like, if you were sitting on the couch, she would come up and just flop on her back at
Yeah,
your
I
feet,
remember that. Every
and
time I'd sit down, Sandy would just come trotting over and then just plop.
just
Just give you her
flop
belly
on the back, and so that you
to
would just
rub with
sit
your
there
feet.
and just use your feet and just rub her belly. Um, she loved it. She's great. Um, she probably does not have. She's probably not long for this world, much
No.
longer. She is very old and she's not doing great. She has a little bit of a skin condition now that we got to give her uh, pills for to help calm down. And I think she's just kind of sore all the time now. She has trouble laying down and
Yeah.
getting back up. So she just spends a lot of time kind of trotting back and forth now because she doesn't like laying down. Um, so, but I mean, the fact that she's made it this long. My mom took her to the groomer yesterday. I went to go pick her up, and I walked in, and every time I pick her up from the groomer lady is like, "She's so old. This dog. She's just such an old dog." And they absolutely love her there because she is just super chill. Um, but they were like, "How old is she?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I got her in the first grade." Um, so, and the lady was like, "Oh, and how old are you? Like 18?" And I was like, "No." And then one of the other workers piped up and she was like, 18? No, he's like 25, 26, 27. And I was like, okay, we don't got to go any higher than that.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
We could stop there. So I was like, no, I'm 22. And they were like, yeah, she's ancient. And they were trying to figure out like, how old was the oldest dog in the world? Like, are you going to have a record? So
She's old. She's like definitely a favorite. It'll be a sad day when her time comes, but she has definitely blessed our lives, even mine. I love Sandy. So
holy cow. Oldest dog in the world was a dog named Bluey, who was 29 years old.
okay.
So no, I will not have a record. I do not think she's going to live 12 more years.
No, probably not. But she has lived a good life, that's for
She
sure.
has lived a good life. She loved fetch. She loves going on walks. She doesn't like walks much anymore because she doesn't like walking very much anymore. But
Yeah.
you just pull out a tennis ball. She never really needed many other toys because tennis ball was her favorite. So
Yeah, she was always pretty simple,
we
pretty
just got her a bunch of
content.
tennis balls. Yeah, she was chill. She just kind of would hang out and play fetch, and
Yeah.
yeah, she's good.
Dang. Yeah, I had a lot of pets growing up. Like I loved having pets. And I think that came my dad was the kind of kid that would like catch anything in the wild and his dad let him keep it as long as he could take care of it. So that kind of transferred to me because I had like I'd catch snakes and keep them. Like I had a pet crawdad for a while in the um little stream that ran between Norrin and I found a crawdad once in the winter and kept him. Like I had lizards, cats, frogs. I think frogs are definitely some of my favorites. I'm planning on getting some now. So that's going to be my newest pet here. But I actually never did have a dog. I think I had pretty much everything but I had a
That's
mouse
true.
too. That was another one. I had a mouse.
Mouse. You had
So yeah,
cats. Yeah. Yeah.
everything but a dog.
I remember your cats loved me. Flower was always coming over and trying to hang out with me, but I am quite allergic to cats. So I was always like, no, please don't touch
Yeah.
me.
I know you'd like sit down and I could see Flowers start making her way
She would
towards
like
you.
lock eyes on me and start coming over. And I was like, no, go away.
Yeah. Oh, that was definitely nice. I love cats. Cats are great. My wife has had cats and she's had like fancier cats because she's allergic, so she has to get
Oh,
hypoallergenic
yeah.
cats. So she wants to get a cat here. Our landlord won't let us. He'll let us get away with frogs though. So
Well, that's a nice replacement. They're pretty much the same thing.
yeah, there we go. So we're going with frogs, but hopefully a cat one day. Do you think you'll ever get a pet yourself, Norrin?
I would love to. I would love to get another dog. I know that my parents don't want another dog, so until I um, make my way um, into a more individualized uh, living situation, um, then I would love to. Um, Probably a dog is what I would do because I love dogs. Um, for a while, I had a beta fish. Um,
Oh, dang.
its name was Devin. Um, you remember Devin, Michael?
Good old Devin.
You
Yeah.
remember Devin? It was senior year of high school, and you and me and Caleb were. I think we were going to spend the night at my house. We were playing D&D, and there was a knock at the door, and we went to open it, and there was a one of those little plastic bowls with a blue beta fish in it on in front of the door with a note on top that said, "This is my son Devin. I'm afraid I can no longer take care of him. Please look after him." And it turns out it was one of our friends uh, on a date. They thought it would be fun to ding dong dish me with a beta fish. So I had a.
Look good.
Did you freeze up?
No, I did not.
Okay. My
Can
screen
you?
looked frozen, but if you can
Ah,
still hear
okay.
me, then I'll keep going. Um,
Yeah. Devin
but
was a good friend.
yeah, so we left the D&D game immediately, went and bought a fishbowl and some rocks and plants to put inside to keep him happy, um, and took good care of Devin through senior year of high school. Then I left to go to college, and I had to leave Devin behind because I didn't have room in my dorm room for his tank because I had upgraded him. I took him. I took good care of that fish. He had
Yeah, you
the little
did.
plastic bowl he came in. Then I got a bigger glass bowl, and then I got a nice filtered tank. Do you remember like we went to some kind of thrift store, and I bought this big, like, it was like 8 gallon tank or something that I got for him. Um, 5 or 8 gallons. I got this tank for him, put him in, that had like a built-in filter, and it could like grow lemongrass and stuff in it. It was pretty fancy kit that I picked up for him. And I was at
Yeah, he was
college,
taken care of.
and then I couldn't take him with me because I couldn't fit that in my dorm. So my little brother was taking care of him. Um, and I got a text probably 2 or 3 months later that Devin had died, and my brother killed my fish. He claims that
No.
it wasn't his fault, but Logan killed Devin.
Logan killed Devin. That's in the dictionary. There's this long rant about pets, and then at the end, Logan killed
P.S.
Devin.
Logan killed Devin, and he is still at large to this day. We need to take him down.
Yeah, definitely.
Ah, well, that was good. Those are all of the words in the Goodland dictionary. There are no other words in the dictionary in Goodland
Yep, this is
yet.
edition one.
Yes, it will continue to grow and evolve as as dictionaries are wont to do. But in this edition one, these like 7 words are all that's in it. It's
It's
like
a
maybe three
pamphlet.
pages. Yeah, yeah, trifold pamphlet. Um, and with that, thank you for coming along with us on this trip back into the valley, this trip back to Goodland. We really appreciate you coming along with us. Um, it's always a good day here in Goodland, and even better when we're here with you listening and watching. So that means a lot. If you are checking us out for the first time on YouTube, like and subscribe, and that is great. Um, if you want to jump in the conversation, leave a comment below. Let us know some words that you'd like to hear, and maybe we'll reply to your comment and get back to you that way. And we can add some more words that way. If you are on iTunes, a 5-star rating helps us grow, helps us become more visible. So that's great. Um, Obviously, if you don't think it's 5 stars, I'm not going to make you do it. But this is Goodland where everything is good. So I think you're a little bit legally obligated. But if you like Michael and I, if you like our voices, and if you like D&D or you think you might want to check out Dungeon Stories, another podcast that we run, available on YouTube and all your other pod chasers. Check me out on Twitch, I guess, if you want, since I'm doing that now. That's a new thing I just started,
Yeah.
Everweld_. So check that out. Um, anything you want to plug, Michael? Anything you got in the
No,
works?
just listen to us again, share us.
Come back.
Yeah, help us grow as much as possible, and let us know what you want to hear.
Yeah, we're always open for suggestions. So if you have an idea for an episode, something you want us to react to, or questions to ask each other, let us know. We would love to take some suggestions and do it that way. That would be awesome. Um,
Yeah.
but for now, with that, everybody, this has been Goodland, and I'm glad you're alive.